Hi, welcome to our Rural Wellington Low Back Pain Education Sessions. In this session, Understanding Persistent Pain, we will be learning about pain in our bodies, how it happens, and what we can do to help control it. Why do we feel pain? Nobody likes being in pain. We tend to think of pain in a negative light, but pain is actually an important function for our body. In most cases, feeling pain is a warning to help reduce any damage that might have otherwise occurred if we didn't feel that pain. When something hurts, we automatically try to avoid it, right? Think of putting your hand on a hot stove. You feel that pain and remove your hand quickly. If you didn't feel the pain, you would burn your hand by leaving it there for too long. Pain is the body's way of making us aware of something. It allows us to avoid, prevent, and respond to what is happening. We like to think of it as our alarm system. Let's think about this alarm system a little bit more. It's important to note that many parts of our bodies can activate this alarm. Our joints, our muscles, and even our nervous system, including our brain. Our body is using the pain alarm system to let us know it wants us to do something to avoid a possible injury. What's really important is for us to distinguish that our pain is an alarm to warn us, not an alarm telling us we are actively being harmed or injured. It's letting the brain know it needs to look into what's happening to make sure any possible injuries are prevented. Think of the smoke alarm in your house. When it goes off, it doesn't necessarily mean there's a fire in your home. A smoke alarm does not equal your house burning down, but it would also be foolish to ignore the alarm and continue on with our day as usual. We'll continue to talk about this in the coming slides, but for now, think about when your smoke alarm goes off. What do? Typically, people respond by maybe stopping, smelling, having a quick look around, listening. If we don't notice anything, we may do a quick check around the house. The alarm is our warning system, but typically without processing more information, we don't run out of the house calling 911 as soon as we hear that alarm go off. The role our brain plays in our pain system is a big one. Our brain is like the motherboard of a computer. All interactions, feelings, emotions, physical movements are decided and analyzed by our brain first before they occur in the rest of our body. When we're going about our day, any of our body parts can send a signal to the brain. It's important to know that this signal starts out with no feeling attached to it. That's where the brain comes in. It receives the signal, and its job is to interpret what the signal is and send the response back to the body part for what it wants it to feel and do. Again, think of your hand on the stove. A signal is sent from your finger or hand, the brain interprets it, and then it sends back a pain signal, as well as a signal to move those muscles to take the hand off the stove quickly. Now, our brain collects different information when it receives a signal to help it interpret what the signal should be. Things like our environment, our past experiences or injuries, our cultural or personal beliefs, any plans or needs that we have, and our emotional state all play a role in how our brain interprets. Let's think about your smoke alarm. If you are someone who maybe isn't the best cook and you tend to set the smoke alarm off on a regular basis, when that alarm goes off based on your past experience, and if you're in the kitchen cooking, maybe your environment, your brain is more likely to think, oops, I burnt supper again. I better open some windows to get this smoke out and turn the alarm off. But think of a smoke alarm going off in the home of someone who has been in a house fire before. If they maybe aren't currently cooking, maybe resting in bed or are home alone, this person is much more likely to interpret that smoke alarm as alerting them to their house being on fire. Your brain uses the information around you to send what it believes is the right signal to your body. Unfortunately, sometimes brains get mixed up and send the wrong signal or too strong of a signal for the situation you are in. This can lead to your feelings, emotions, and physical pain appearing unreal to others at times because everyone's brain interprets differently since everyone's experiences, past injuries, etc. are different and unique. At the end of the day, what you feel is a result of how your brain interpreted the signal. In the wise words of Albus Dumbledore, of course it's happening inside your head, but why should that mean that it's not real? Take that person who instantly believes their house is on fire after hearing the smoke alarm, for example. Their panic, feelings, and thoughts about the fire happening are very real. And until they are able to prove to themselves with other information their brain collects that they are safe, they will continue to have that emotional and physical response to their brain's interpretation. We typically see this as a hypersensitive alarm system. With a hypersensitive alarm system, our brain is more likely to interpret pain in situations that don't require it for safety. Also, the brain is more likely to have a more intense response than what is needed. There is some great news though. The way our brain interprets signals can be changed. Our pain alarm system has a volume control. Our brain chooses the volume of every alarm based on how it interprets the threat. Our brain gets to decide how much it turns that volume knob up or how much it turns it down and when it turns it up or down. Sometimes this volume control can look a little wonky compared to the situation at hand. The brain has the ability to reduce pain if it needs to, like in the case of a major injury that might not hurt in the moment because the brain feels that something else is more important to focus on. Think of those shark attacks we've heard of, where the people report that they didn't have pain at the time. That's because the brain was more focused on survival and getting that body to swim away from the shark than feeling the pain in the moment. The same can be true for sports and athletics. Sometimes people don't necessarily feel an injury like an ankle sprain in the heat of the moment when they're about to score the winning goal. Have you experienced anything like this? On the flip side, our brain can also crank that volume up for something smaller. Think of walking into the kitchen in the middle of the night to get that glass of water and stepping on that one Lego piece. It might feel like your foot's going to fall off from that one Lego piece, but it's a very small injury to a small part of your foot. The volume of the pain that you feel is not always equal to the damage or the situation. When you feel pain consistently for a long time, your volume control system can get a bit skewed as it becomes hypersensitive. In typical situations, the brain turns the volume knob up accordingly when it receives information that leads it to interpret pain, and then the brain collects additional information. Once it interprets that extra information as you being safe, it will turn the volume knob back down. In a hypersensitive alarm system, the brain isn't interpreting that extra information as being safe and keeps the volume knob turned up. It also may have turned it up higher than it needed to in the first place. This means your back can hurt enormously without having any physical injuries or long after an injury is healed. Because the alarm is hypersensitive, a signal that used to be interpreted as no concern is now interpreted as dangerous. In these situations where the alarm system is hypersensitive, the degree of pain rarely matches the extent of physical injury. Typically, there is no longer a threat of injury or damage, yet the body and brain are still on high alert and feeling that pain to try to protect us. A downward spiral can happen with our brain and bodies when we have this persistent pain. Pain can cause low moods, which can make you avoid activity or movement. This leads to getting weaker and stiffer and more tired, which then increases your pain, which then increases your low mood, and the cycle goes around and around. But there is some good news. We know that pain is not a conscious decision, but we can consciously start to work on factors that can have a positive effect on our brain and our pain, and we can start to turn the volume down. This upward spiral can help you gain some control over your pain and your life. So looking at this image of the upward spiral in the center is your pain. As you go out, the first step is understanding your pain. Understanding that your pain is not causing damage and why you're feeling what you're feeling. Hopefully, having listened to this presentation so far, you do have a better understanding of your pain. Then next is starting to get moving. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be complicated. Keeping it small and keeping it simple. All you have to do is increase your movement from what you are currently doing. Over time, by doing this, you'll increase your muscle strength and endurance. This will lead to you feeling stronger. And over time, this will lead to you not being as scared to move. This helps your brain's interpretation of what's going on, which then leads to even more movement since your brain isn't perceiving as much pain or as much threat. And again, this cycle continues like the negative one, but in the right direction, and it keeps building and building off of itself, going further and further in the upward spiral. Let's look at factors that affect both the downward and upward spiral so we can be prepared. These are all factors that will affect how your brain interprets information and in what direction it turns the volume. So some factors that we often see cause an increase in pain or turn that volume up is when we experience low mood, not getting enough sleep or rest for our bodies, living with high levels of stress and not having healthy coping strategies to help manage it, restricting our movements, or isolating ourselves, which can also impact our mood as well. Now, some common factors we see that can help turn down that volume and decrease our pain levels are getting a good night's sleep, finding healthy ways to manage our stress, joyful activities, socializing with others, engaging our body in natural and gentle movement, working towards our goals, and understanding our pain. Where to start to turn your volume down? Let's dig a little deeper into a few of those positive factors from last slide. The first is learning healthy coping strategies for managing your stress. Typically, stress is unavoidable at least at times in our life. So having good strategies to help you manage it when it does come up is really important. This might mean getting support from a mental health therapist, a social worker, or a counselor, or utilizing some great online resources to help build a toolbox of strategies that you can use when you need them. The next is participating in activities that are meaningful to you. These are activities that you enjoy, that help elevate your mood. Think of any activities or movements you've enjoyed in the past or ones you've seen and you've thought, I would like to participate in that. Doing these activities on a regular basis can help to release those happy hormones in our brain, which can help improve our mood. Gentle movement. When you first start to increase your movement, you will most likely still feel pain, and that's okay. Remember that pain is not the same as damage. Increase your movement gradually and with small bouts of it. Try to find movement that you enjoy. This is one of the most important parts. Enjoying your movement is going to help your brain feel happier about it. With practice, you can start to feel more in control. You can start to move more naturally and with less and less pain. And remember, motion is lotion. One that's really important, even if you are not typically a social person. Socializing at least a little bit with your family, friends, or community groups helps to steer your focus in other directions and helps to get you out of a spiral. Okay? And the last one here, working towards personal goals. So it's important to switch your focus from the thought that your body is damaged and needs to be fixed to focusing on your life as a whole. Setting small personal goals and then turning your focus to working towards them. Think about something that you'd like to be able to do. Now make sure that it's realistic and that it's important to you. Or write it down and then find ways to work towards those goals. Working toward them might not take the pain away, but it can help increase your confidence and it can help you enjoy life a little more. Also, a note worth mentioning is working on general healthy lifestyle habits, getting a good night's sleep, having good hygiene, a balanced nutrition. These all play a role in our brain function, which in turn plays a role in how it interprets our information. And one final note, but it might be the most important. Please know that your progress is not an all or nothing situation. Any step you take towards progress is better than no steps forward. And it's really important to celebrate each step, no matter how small it is. Thank you for listening to this education session on persistent pain. If you have any questions or feel like you would benefit from targeted support to work towards turning your volume down, please consult with one of our rural Wellington low back pain team members, and they can help you or direct you to the appropriate resource.